It is a known fact that history taught in schools is usually biased. Depends on who frames the syllabus, who funds research, what are their political beliefs, etc. Indian history taught in schools is a reflection of British feeders, bias introduced by various ruling governments, and even historians who are more oriented towards their political beliefs than real historical research. The Indian history school textbooks cover the Maurya, Gupta, Delhi Sultanate, Mughals, and the Indian independence quite extensively, chapters after chapters. However, the significant South Indian kingdoms of Rashtrakutas, Hoysalas, Cholas, Pallavas, Pandyas, all of them get a total of one chapter at best across grades. In this edition, we will learn about one great emperor from the South Indian subcontinent who established India's first maritime empire, ruled an area that was larger than modern India itself, but is barely reduced to a one-line mention in a 6th grade textbook. Welcome to Masala History by Siva. Travel with me 1,000 years back as we explore the real-life Bahubali, Rajendra Chola, the son who eclipsed his illustrious father, the great Arunmozhi Varman, or more commonly known as Rajaraja Chola. So let us sit in our time machines and travel to Tanjavur in Tamil Nadu with the time dial set to 1012 Common Era. Tanjavur or Tanjore is the birthplace of several classical arts, dance, sculpture, literature. It was also the capital of medieval Chola since the late 10th century. The Cholas are one of the longest ruling dynasties in the world's history. They ruled regions of South India for over 1,500 years in totality. The medieval Cholas were established by Vijayalaya in the year 848 Common Era. Rajaraja Chola is considered as the greatest Chola king ever. He expanded his empire substantially in the south, organized a naval force, and stormed northern Ceylon or Sri Lanka. Rajaraja also built the then tallest structure of Asia, the Brahadeesvara temple, an engineering marvel which still stands proud today. Born as Arunmozhi Varman and titled Raja Kesari, meaning King of Lions, he is romanticized heavily in Tamil world. A large credit goes to the writer Kalki Krishnamurthy for his iconic masterpiece Ponniyin Selvan, or the Son of Kaveri. But arguably, the greatest Chola king was his son Rajendra, the emperor who would end up conquering 58 other kings and will remain undefeated in his entire life. Born as Madhurantaka, Rajendra was very skilled in sword fights, horse riding, and in general military strategy. He won a couple of crucial wars for his father's army. Rajaraja not just appointed him as his heir apparent, but also made him as co-regent in 1012 CE. This showed both the loyalty of the son to his king and the trust of the father on the prince. In most of history, we always find kings eyeing their sons with suspicion on succession and revolt, and the princes imprisoning or killing their own emperor fathers. However, Rajendra utilized this co-regent opportunity and developed a strong sense of organization, rulership, public administration, military skills, and of course, ambition. In 1014, after Rajaraja's demise, Rajendra assumed the title of Parakesari, meaning the lion to all his enemies. He systematically started building his empire. Within few years, he followed his father's footsteps and anointed his son Rajaraja Chola as a co-regent. Together, the father-son duo built a Chola empire that would become one of the biggest empires ruled by an Indian emperor, covering 3.6 million square kilometer area. For context, the modern-day Indian Republic is 3.28 million square kilometers. Rajendra Chola spent more than 20 years of his adult life in battlefields. Under him, the Chola military gained its peak strength. The army consisted of the infantry, cavalry, and the elephant corps, along with specialists like bowmen. The Chola army is said to have over 2 million, that is 20 lakh soldiers, simultaneously fighting for their kingdom. The armed forces of the Rajendra Chola followed the ancient tradition of Ratha Gaja Tura Padai, where Ratha is the chariot, Gaja the elephant, Tura the horses, and Padai the infantry. In addition to these divisions, there were Nadapu and Payanam, which were the supply chain and logistics. Finally, there was always a large division of doctors. The Chola Navy is a jewel in their crown, a division that was perfected by Rajendra. He had over 1,000 warship fleet and 1,000,000 men devoted to the navy. To honor Rajendra Chola's focus on building out navy, the training warship of the Indian Navy today is named after him as T.S. Rajendra. It is then no wonder that with such magnificent military, Rajendra was a real-life Bahubali, winning every battle. In his early campaigns, he defeated the Rashtrakutas, the Western Gangas, the Cheras and the Pandyas. Then he invaded Sri Lanka and brought the entire island under his control, capturing Prince Mahinda and bringing him to Tanjavur. Rajendra then started his most famous campaign towards Bengal. His first stop was to finish off the Western Chalukyas. From there, he marched to Kalinga, defeating the ruling Somavamsi king. Then he met Mahipala of the Pala dynasty of Bengal, defeating him. He also ended the Kamboja Pala dynasty, marched into modern-day Bangladesh, and conquered the Chandra dynasty. He brought several idols from temples across his campaigns and water from the river Ganges to adorn his new capital, the Gangaikonda Cholapuram. After winning most of eastern India, which covers modern-day Odisha, West Bengal, Bangladesh, Tamil Nadu, and even parts of Karnataka, Rajendra took the seas. The Cambodian king of the Khmer Empire, Surya Varman, who was also a Shaivite king like Rajendra, sought his help in a local tussle. This tussle with the Tambralinga dynasty brought the Indonesian Mahayana Buddhist empire of Srivijaya also into the conflict. Rajendra sailed with 1,000 warships towards Malaysia, conquering Andaman on the way. He sacked the Malay capital of Kedah, which is modern-day Langkawi, earning the name Kadaram Kundan. He also captured modern-day Singapore and marched into Indonesia, finishing off the kingdom of Sailendra dynasty of Srivijaya. The map that can be found either part of the podcast cover or a link will be there in the notes will show the extent of Rajendra's suzerainty across Southeast Asia. This conquest established Cholas as the leading maritime power in South Asia, and thereon they established proper trading relations even with China. Rajendra was not a raider but a proper ruler who was determined to establish the Chola Empire and also provide proper governance. He established rulers in the areas he conquered and made them pay tribute as opposed to looting and plundering their cities. His capital, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, was one of the richest capitals in the world those times, with pomp and splendor. Rajendra built a replica of the Tanjavur Brahadeesvara temple, and that also stands proud even today. Not just that, there are several stories passed down about how humble and funny he was and moved with commoners and soldiers and farmers just like one of them. Now let's add some masala to the story. In the exact same time when Rajendra was expanding the Chola boundaries in east of India, there was a very famous raider from modern-day Afghanistan and Central Asia. He raided India 17 times, looting and plundering temples all along the way, the last one being the Somnath temple. The raider was a ruler of Ghazni Empire, Mahmud, and was the first king to style himself as Sultan in the whole world. Now, why am I talking about Muhammad of Ghazni suddenly? In one of the most curious and unexplainable incidents in history, Rajendra Chola and Mahmud of Ghazni were just 200 kilometers apart right after he had sacked the Somnath temple, and yet they did not meet in battle. How did Rajendra, being a staunch Shaivite king, not go fight the man who had just destroyed the most popular Shiva temple in the whole of the world? And why did Mahmud of Ghazni, whose main aim was looting, not attack Rajendra or the Chola Empire, which was known to have vast wealth in form of gold and diamonds? It is very established that both these rulers knew the position of each of them through their brilliant spy networks, and yet they did not choose to fight each other. Well, we can only guess, and here are some guesses. To start off with, Mahmud of Ghazni was running away with his plunder. He did not want to be slowed down and caught in battles, especially he knew that if he got delayed, it would mean his capture. He was also not planning to rule any of these lands, he just wanted the wealth. Rajendra, on the other hand, was a military strategist. He would never do random attacks on an enemy. He would study them well, prepare well ahead, and invade only when he is sure of victory. Also, Rajendra's intent of conquest was to rule, and possibly he left the chase and the fight of Ghazni to the other Rajput kings. Lastly, Rajendra was also in a hurry to invade the Srivijaya kingdom in Indonesia and so had to head back to his capital to muster the navy, so he possibly did not want to stop and fight some random raider from the north. Stay back with me as we explore a what-if scenario. What if Mahmud of Ghazni and Rajendra had actually met in battle? Who would have triumphed? First of all, it is important to understand why Mahmud of Ghazni was successful in his raids. His army was made of light infantry and cavalry, or horses. In contrast, most of the Rajput and Jat kings had elephants and did not trade in horses in those times. This made Mahmud's army very fast and agile and his enemies slow. To top it, his guerrilla warfare models always created chaos with the elephant front lines, causing them to trample their own men to death. Secondly, Mahmud of Ghazni's army is known to have used the lighter one-side sharp blades which were easy to swing, as opposed to the Rajput armies that had double-edged swords that were usually heavy. Now let's get into the what-if scenario. Assuming Rajendra and Mahmud of Ghazni met each other at battle, playing their own skills, strategy and agility respectively, who would have won? Ghazni's army had 15,000 horses and 10,000 men in all, 25,000. The Cholas were big customers of Arabian horses and were well versed in understanding cavalry strategy of Central Asian forces. Rajendra Chola's army, as we described before, had a cavalry front line with 120,000 horses, followed by elephant forces with 60,000 elephants, and finally close to 1,000,000 men marching on foot, followed by 20,000 doctors. This force was incomparable to Ghazni, and no matter what, Ghazni would have been no match against Rajendra Chola. This event never played out in real world. Rajendra Chola's bravery and his ability to boost the morale of his armies were praised in several literatures during those times. In fact, there are stories of how men who, even after losing one leg, would hear the cry of Rajendra Chola and would rise with swords in their hand and fight for the Chola Empire and the tiger flag. Sadly, the conqueror of seas, the founder of the first thalassocratic empire of India, and the undefeated king who ruled an area larger than India itself, does not get a proper recognition in his own country's history textbooks. That's all for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed today's story and learned something about Rajendra Chola. Please keep your feedback and comments coming. I will see you with yet another Masala History very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.